The moment you stop blaming the world is the moment your life truly begins. Think about that for a second. Not when everything becomes easy, not when luck finally shows up, but when you decide, quietly, firmly, that your life is your responsibility. Right now, somewhere inside you, there is a part that knows this truth, a part that's tired of waiting, a part that's tired of excuses that sound reasonable but lead nowhere, a part that wants more, not just more success but more meaning, more control, more self-respect. This is not a loud realization. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes as a calm, unsettling awareness that says, if this is going to change, it has to be me. Because this idea, personal responsibility, has a hidden power most people never tap into. For years we are taught to look outward. We are told to wait for permission, opportunity, motivation, or fairness. We learn to explain our struggles by pointing at circumstances, people, systems, or the past. And sometimes those explanations are true. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Even when the reasons are valid, the results are the same. Nothing changes. There was a man once, let's call him Adam, not because his story is unique, but because it's painfully common. Adam grew up with limitations, limited money, limited guidance, limited confidence. Every setback had a reason. The school system failed him, the economy was unstable. The people around him didn't support his ideas, and every reason made sense. So Adam waited. He waited for the right time. He waited until he felt ready. He waited for someone to notice his potential. Years passed, and slowly, without realizing it, Adam didn't just lose time. He lost belief. He began to see life as something that happened to him, not something he shaped. He lowered expectations. He learned how to survive, instead of how to grow. And one night, after another long day that felt exactly like the last, Adam asked himself a dangerous question. What if no one is coming to save me? That question didn't inspire him immediately. It scared him, because if no one was coming, then responsibility fell on him. And responsibility is heavy until you realize something. Responsibility is also freedom. The hidden power of personal responsibility is this: the moment you take full ownership of your life, you reclaim control. Not partial responsibility, not shared responsibility, full responsibility. That doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing that regardless of what happened, what happens next is yours to decide. Most people avoid this idea because it removes comfort. Blame is comfortable. Excuses protect the ego. Victimhood removes pressure, but they also remove power. When you say, "This is my life and I am responsible for what I do with it," something shifts inside you. You stop waiting, you stop complaining, you stop negotiating with your potential. Adam didn't wake up the next day transformed. He didn't suddenly feel confident or motivated. What he felt was clarity. He stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started asking, "What can I do about it?" That single shift changed everything. He began small, painfully small, waking up earlier, keeping promises to himself, learning skills instead of scrolling away his frustration, taking responsibility for his reactions, his habits, his time. And here's the strange part. Nothing outside changed at first. Same job, same environment, same challenges. But Adam changed. And when you change how you show up, life responds differently. Personal responsibility is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest. Honest about where you are. Honest about what you've avoided. Honest about the fact that growth requires discomfort. Most people want confidence without effort, discipline without sacrifice, results without responsibility. But life doesn't work that way. Responsibility is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. When you take responsibility, you stop seeing obstacles as excuses and start seeing them as tests. You realize that pain is not a signal to quit, it's a signal to grow. Adam started failing more, but quitting less. He started being rejected, but improving every time. He stopped protecting his pride and started building his character. And slowly, something remarkable happened. He began to trust himself. That's the part no one talks about. Self-trust is built through responsibility. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, you send yourself a message, "I can rely on me." And that belief is powerful. Because once you trust yourself, fear loses its grip. Doubt becomes quieter. External validation becomes unnecessary. You don't need motivation when you have responsibility. You move because it's your duty. to yourself. Look at your life right now, not with judgment, with ownership. Where have you been waiting instead of acting? Where have you been blaming instead of learning? Where have you been hoping things change instead of deciding to change? This is not about regret. Regret wastes energy. This is about reclaiming your future. The past is unchangeable, but responsibility lives in the present. Every great transformation in history began when someone accepted full responsibility for their actions, their choices, and their growth. Not because they were perfect, but because they were committed. Adam didn't become extraordinary overnight. He became consistent. He learned that responsibility isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Some days he failed, some days he doubted, but he never returned to blaming. And over time, life opened doors he never saw before. Not because the world changed, but because he did. Opportunities favor those who are ready, and responsibility is what prepares you. Here's the truth most people avoid. Your life is a reflection of your standards. When you accept responsibility, your standards rise. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop engaging in habits that sabotage you. You stop accepting less than you're capable of. Responsibility sharpens your focus. You realize that time is not unlimited, that energy is precious, that every choice compounds. And suddenly, your actions align with your values. That alignment creates confidence. That confidence creates momentum. That momentum creates results. This is the hidden power. Not control over others, not control over circumstances, control over yourself. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be responsible. You don't need perfect conditions. You need ownership. You don't need permission. You need commitment. The world respects those who take responsibility for their lives, even when it resists them at first, because responsibility builds resilience, and resilience builds greatness. Adam's life didn't become easy. It became meaningful, and that made all the difference. So today, make a quiet decision. Not a dramatic promise, not a temporary burst of motivation, a grounded decision. I am responsible for my life. Say it without anger. Say it without shame. Say it with strength. Because the moment you accept responsibility, you unlock the power to change anything that follows. You are not powerless. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are responsible, and that is the greatest power you will ever have. Carry it with pride. Use it with courage, and let it guide you forward, one honest decision at a time. Before anything else changes in your life, something must change within you. Not your circumstances, not the people around you, not the world. You, because the most powerful force you will ever discover is not luck, talent, or opportunity. It is personal responsibility. Most people never hear this truth clearly. They are told to wait, to hope, to wish, to blame timing, systems, other people, or fate. But today, listen closely, because what you are about to hear has the power to quietly, permanently change the direction of your life. There is a hidden power inside you, a power so simple that it is often ignored, a power so uncomfortable that many avoid it. Yet every strong life, every meaningful achievement, every deep sense of self-respect is built on it. That power is taking full responsibility for who you are, where you are, and who you choose to become. Let that sink in. Personal responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that has gone wrong. It does not mean denying pain, injustice, or struggle. It means recognizing one truth that frees you instead of trapping you. The truth that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control how you respond, how you grow, and how you move forward. Many people live their entire lives waiting for permission to start, permission to change, permission to become more. But responsibility is permission. Responsibility is the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What will I do with what I've been given?" There was once a man who believed his life had already been decided for him. He grew up watching others succeed while he struggled just to stay afloat. Every failure felt like proof that he was unlucky. Every obstacle confirmed his belief that the world was unfair, and maybe it was. But what truly kept him stuck was not the world. It was the story he kept telling himself. He blamed his upbringing, he blamed his education, he blamed his circumstances. And with every excuse, he unknowingly handed away his power. One evening, after another long day that felt pointless and heavy, He sat alone in silence. No distractions, no noise, just his thoughts. And for the first time, a question surfaced that changed everything. What if my life doesn't change because I won't change? That question hurt. It challenged everything he believed, but it also cracked something open. Because in that moment he realized something frightening and freeing at the same time. If he was responsible for his life, then he could no longer hide. But if he was responsible, then he was also capable. This is where most people turn back. Because responsibility is heavy. It means no longer waiting for rescue. It means no longer blaming others for your unhappiness. It means standing face to face with yourself and saying, "This is on." But listen carefully. Responsibility is not a burden. It is strength. When you accept responsibility, you stop being a victim of life and start becoming a creator of it. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop surviving and start building. Think about the moments in your life that hurt the most. The failures, the betrayals, the missed chances. It is easy to say that ruined me. But responsibility asks a different question. What did this teach me? That shift changes everything. Because growth does not come from comfort, it comes from ownership. The man from earlier didn't transform overnight. He didn't wake up suddenly confident and successful. What changed was quieter but far more powerful. He stopped lying to himself. He stopped saying, "I can't," and started asking, "How can I?" He took responsibility for his habits, for his time, for his mindset, and slowly, his life followed. This is the part no one likes to hear. Your life reflects your choices more than your circumstances. Not perfectly, not always fairly, but consistently. When you take responsibility, excuses lose their grip. You begin to see that every day is shaped by small decisions. What you focus on, what you tolerate, what you repeat. Responsibility is choosing discipline over comfort. It is choosing truth over denial. It is choosing growth over blame. There is a quiet dignity that comes with this choice, a deep confidence that does not rely on applause or approval. Because when you know you are doing your part, you stop needing validation from the world. Breathe. Ask yourself honestly, where have you been giving your power away? To fear, to the past, to other people's opinions? Personal responsibility does not mean you must carry everything alone. It means you stop pretending that someone else will do it for you. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who say, "I will get back up, and I will learn." Responsibility teaches resilience. Because when you own your actions, you also own your ability to adapt. You stop seeing failure as an ending and start seeing it as feedback. This is how transformation begins. Quietly, internally. The man began waking up earlier, not because he had to, but because he chose to. He began learning instead of complaining. He stopped waiting for motivation and started acting despite discomfort. And something remarkable happened. His confidence grew, not because life became easier, but because he became stronger. That is the hidden power. Responsibility builds self-trust. When you keep promises to yourself, even small ones, you send a message to your mind, "I can rely on me." That trust compounds. That trust changes how you speak, how you walk, how you face challenges. Eventually, opportunities began appearing, not magically but logically, because responsibility sharpens awareness. You notice chances you once ignored. You prepare for doors before they open. This is why responsibility is not restrictive. It is expansive. People who avoid responsibility stay small. People who embrace it grow. There is no perfect moment to start, no ideal condition. Responsibility begins exactly where you are, with exactly what you have. You do not need to control the whole future. You only need to take responsibility for the next right action. One choice, one habit, one honest conversation with yourself. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped blaming and started building. Imagine the weight that would lift if you stopped fighting reality and started working with it. Personal responsibility does not erase pain, but it gives pain purpose. It turns suffering into wisdom. It turns mistakes into lessons. It turns fear into fuel. This is why responsibility is empowering, because it puts the steering wheel back in your hands. You may have been delayed, you may have been hurt, you may have been underestimated, but responsibility says, "I am still here, and I am not finished." As the man continued his journey, something deeper changed. He no longer compared himself to others. He measured himself against who he was yesterday. And that comparison was fair and motivating. Responsibility creates integrity, alignment between who you are and who you say you want to be. And integrity creates peace, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of meaning. Life did not suddenly become perfect for him. Challenges still came, failures still happened. But now, they did not define him. They refined him. That is the transformation. When you take responsibility, you stop asking life for guarantees. You become the guarantee. You become someone who shows up, someone who learns, someone who adjusts. And over time, people notice. Not because you demand recognition, but because responsibility has a way of quietly commanding respect. Let the music breathe. This message is not meant to judge you. It is meant to remind you. You are more powerful than you think. The moment you stop blaming is the moment your life starts moving. Personal responsibility is not about control. It is about commitment. Commitment to growth. Commitment to effort. Commitment to becoming better than yesterday. You do not need to fix everything today. You only need to own today. Own your choices. Own your attitude. Own your response. That is enough to begin. And as you walk this path, remember this. Responsibility is not something you take once. It is something you practice daily. With patience, with humility, with courage. There will be days you slip, days you doubt, days you feel tired. Responsibility does not mean perfection, it means honesty. When you fall, take responsibility and stand again. Because the hidden power of personal responsibility is this: it turns ordinary people into grounded, resilient, capable individuals who shape their own lives with intention. You do not need permission. You do not need approval. You do not need to wait. Your life is speaking to you right now. And it is asking one simple question: will you take responsibility for me? When you answer yes, everything changes. Not all at once, but forever.